Hi, Imani.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Hey everyone. I have the extraordinary James Foley here with me. James is an amazing author and illustrator.
You're very kind.
You are incredible.
Oh, thank you. So are you.
He has written several amazing children's books such as Dungzilla, Gastronauts, James Foley. He's also illustrated for other authors, and he illustrated the Toffle Towers series.
I did, yes. Written by Tim Harris.
These are all incredible illustrations.
Thank you.
They're incredible. I'm in awe of them. He also runs a lot of workshops to inspire kids, and I find that he's super inspirational. I also love how encouraging he is.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me grill you.
That's wonderful. Thanks. That's all we have time for. Bye, everybody.
Bye. We're kidding. What is one of the strangest places you've got an inspiration for one of your books?
The strangest places I've ever got inspiration for one of my books. That's a really good question. Let's have a look. Okay, so My Dead Bunny. I got to illustrate this one. I read the text and I thought, no, this is a joke. This can't be a real thing that someone actually wants to make. But the publishers did want to make it. So I knew it felt like kind of a gothic old horror movie sort of story, but funny. So I started watching old black and white horror movies, like the original Frankenstein and the Wolfman and Dracula and the Invisible Man, all those ones from like the 1930s. So that's how I get inspiration for that. In The Lion is about a boy who has to save everyone at the zoo from a lion who's escaped. And I got the inspiration for that one from going to a tiger park in Thailand and getting to pat a real tiger. Yeah. And Gastronauts, about going in a tiny submarine and going into the human body and into the digestive system. I got that inspiration on the toilet.
As you do.
It's just it's how it happens.
Exactly, you get inspiration if you're sitting on the toilet.
Exactly
You
right.
just roll with it.
That's right. If there's nothing interesting on Twitter to read, if you haven't brought a book or a newspaper with you, just imagine what it would be like to get in a tiny submarine and go into the human digestive tract.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's just how it happens.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's just what happens.
How do you make your illustrations so bright and bubbly? Because I just look at them and I'm like, these are incredible.
Thank you for saying so. I think what you don't see is all the rough, scrappy, ugly, horrible drawings that happened before these ones, and not just the roughs that go towards a particular cover, but the years and years and years and years and years of drawings that came before these ones that you don't see. So I wanted to be an illustrator since forever, and I've been illustrating little stories of my own and comic strips and things for a very long time. Since I was in primary school, I made my first books when I was probably in about year one. And I'm 38 later this year, so that's like 33 years of practice so far where I get to hone my skills as I go. I'm also a little bit colourblind apparently. Doesn't mean that I can't see colours, it just means that my colour perception is not as strong as other people's. So when I first do the colours for a cover, they can sometimes be a little bit weak. So often when I do the colours first, I'll then finish the cover and then I'll turn the colours up, I'll turn the saturation up. And then I'll go, oh yeah, that's brighter now, and I didn't even notice before that it was looking kind of dull. So yeah, no illustration just happens straight off the bat, spontaneously, fully formed. It always takes a lot of work and roughs and testing and figuring out before you can make it look just the way that you want it to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can't pull out this incredible thing. I mean, look at all of these. You can't just go, oh look, it's done.
No.
It has to take work, and
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Well, yeah, that's what happens. I mean, you can get a little bit quicker at the process as you get older and you do it more often, but yeah, there's still lots of work involved. Each book is just the tip of an iceberg, and there's all this work down here that you don't get to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which of your characters has been the most fun to create? The one that you can relate to the most?
Ooh, which character can I relate to the most? Definitely the zombie rabbit. My son didn't sleep for the first 2 years of his life, pretty much, so I just felt like a zombie rabbit, scurrying around the world, trying to eat people. No, I think the one who I relate to the most every time you make a character, there's a little bit of you in the character. So I can relate to all of them in some way, more or less. In the last Viking books, that was my first picture book written by Norman Jorgensen. I relate a lot to little Josh here because he was a character whose biggest problem was that he was afraid of everything and he was getting bullied. And so I can relate to that because that was me as a kid. I was very anxious and I was getting bullied a lot. If you just make this kid, give him dark brown hair, then that would be me at the same age. If you take the ponytail off Sally, that's basically me too. I was the bossy older sibling who was always trying to keep things under control while the younger siblings were always making a mess. So that's me too. But I do like to be the one who makes a mess sometimes, so that can be me as well. So yeah, I can recognise myself in all of them. And Chegwin here is a great dreamer. And I know that Tim identifies with him a lot because Tim is a very imaginative person and was always called a dreamer. But I like to daydream too and make up stories, so I can totally identify with this guy as well.
Yeah. Daydreams are definitely amazing.
Important, that's where you get lots of inspiration from. You've got to let your mind wander.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to have like this little piece of you in it.
Exactly right. You can't really get away from it. And even when it comes to like the villains of a story, you still even have to imagine what it would be like to be that person. And we've all got a potential villain inside us.
Exactly.
Most
like when
of us
you just snap and you're just like...
Exactly right. But most of us keep it under wraps and we do the right thing. We don't become megalomaniacs, you know? But you've got to imagine sometimes when you're the writer and the illustrator what it will be like to actually be that person. And then try to put them into your story. But not become that in real life.
Yeah, don't.
No.
That wouldn't be...
It's a bad idea.
That wouldn't end well.
No, terrible. Unless you become a politician and then you get like really successful.
Exactly. You get like super successful being the villain.
Yeah.
Has it always been a goal of yours to be a author and illustrator, or have you had a different career path in mind as a child?
Good question. I think it was always, at least in the back of my head, I didn't know that it was a job you could actually do. So I had other jobs in mind at first. I wanted to become a librarian. I wanted to become a teacher. I studied primary teaching for a little while. I also studied journalism. I also studied a bit of advertising. I also studied a little bit of behavioural science down at Notre Dame. It basically means like community psychology. So I was studying that and I finished that degree and that's where I got my day job and that was really useful. I understood that. I really liked that sort of work. But at the same time, I was always drawn to making stories and doing drawings. So I'd be in meetings at work at my day job and just drawing the people who were talking and doing little caricatures of them and stuff like that. So I think I was always meant to do this.
Yeah, you've always had that image that this is kind of what I want to do, but because you did like all of these little things that are little side jobs of it, and I've always wanted to be a librarian too.
Yeah.
Being submersed in the books.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I thought that would be a really fun day job to be able to be surrounded by books all the time.
Yeah, and help people find really good books.
Yeah, exactly right. I'd be just telling them what graphic novels to read, though. I think I'm not well read, widely read enough, like a lot of librarians are. They're amazing people, aren't they? Because they can point you towards whatever sort of book you want. But I would just be like, hey, have you read this graphic novel? This is fantastic. The Superman battles Batman. This one, it's really good. So I might not be the best at that.
But we all have our strong spots.
We all have our strong spots.
And I'm definitely glad you chose to be an author and illustrator because these are incredible.
You're very kind. Thank you. My chair's very bouncy. Is yours?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's a bit odd. It's like...
Yeah.
Anyway.
You do a lot of work in schools. Why is it so important to you to encourage kids to read and write?
I think for me, the most important thing is to encourage kids to be creative and to be okay with that because quite often kids get to a certain age in school where they start to really shut down with that. Some kids go ahead and keep creating things. They keep writing and drawing and singing and making music and whatever else, but a lot of other kids give up and they feel like it's not for them. Not because they don't want to, but because they feel like it has to be done a certain way and they're not good enough at it, and so there's no point, and so they give up. And I think that's pretty sad, and I think we can all draw and we can all tell stories, and everyone's got something to say and something to express. And so stories are really important in that way, and they're not often always valued in schools and in society either. So we need to encourage people to tell their stories.
I agree. Creativity is definitely important.
Yes, exactly right. I mean, so is sports, and so is science, and so is maths, but being creative and imaginative it's what makes us human, really, isn't it?
Yes, and stories definitely help benefit that, because it's also fun.
Yeah.
Because you get to imagine yourself in this whole new world, and it's just incredible.
Exactly right. You get to learn all the lessons that the main character learns without having to live any of the risk that they are.
Yeah, like in Noah Jorgensen's books, getting chased by sharks every constant second.
Exactly right. Though working with Norman Jorgensen can be risky and dangerous. No, he's wonderful. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's really awesome.
He is.
Amazing storyteller.
He is.
And now we are into the speed questions.
Oh, dun dun dun. Okay.
What was your favourite book as a kid?
My favourite book as a child was The 11th Hour by Graham Base.
Ooh.
Yeah, picture book.
Name 2 authors that have inspired you.
2 authors that have inspired me. Sean Tan, I already mentioned Graham Base, so I'll also mention Bill Watterson, who did the Calvin and Hobbes cartoons.
Ooh. What is your favourite ice cream flavour?
My favourite ice cream flavour is this chocolate hazelnut gelato that you can get at this place in Frio. They call it Ferrero, because it's got bits of wafer in it too, like a Ferrero Rocher.
I want to try that so bad.
It's so good.
What book are you reading right now?
I'm reading The Good Thieves by Catherine Rundell. Have you read any Catherine Rundell?
No, I haven't.
She's amazing. She's fantastic. She's British, and she's one of those young people who's a genius, who just is so accomplished at a very young age. She's incredible, amazing.
What new book or project are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm working on 2. I've done the roughs for Toffel Towers book 3. I'm just waiting back on final feedback on those. By the time this video is out, I might have already finished those. And I'm also working on the next in the Sally Tinker books. So the next one is called Chickensaurus, and that's out in October, I believe. That's going to be 200 pages long, so I'm busy doing all the illustrations for that. Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It takes a long time to make a graphic novel, especially one that's 200 pages, but I'm getting there bit by bit. It's about Sally's nemesis. So we finally got Sally's arch enemy in there, whose name is Dexter Maelstrom, and he's invented a way to turn animals back into their evolutionary ancestors. So he's turning chickens back into dinosaurs.
That would be terrifying. I would not want that. Oh no.
But it's going to be like Jurassic Park with chickens. It's going to be kind of funny. And
Chicken Jurassic Park. That sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
I would totally go with that.
They're like, the dinosaurs are still the same size, but they're kind of almost half chicken. So there's a Trifeathertops, and there's an Eggosaurus, which is still in the egg and it hasn't come out of its shell. And there's Velociroosters, and there's a Chickensaurus Rex as well.
That sounds hilarious.
It's gonna be good, I hope. It'll be fun.
It sounds like it's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, but it's also got a hidden message in it too. It's also, like, it's a silly story, but it's also about toxic masculinity. Which, I'm not going to tell everyone now, but it's kind of, that was where the idea came from. It's like, what if you had Donald Trump as a child, and then you made him Sally's enemy?
I think he's everyone's enemy.
Yeah, he hasn't got that many friends, I don't think. But yeah, it was my response to things I was seeing in the world. But I thought I'd make it Jurassic Park with chickens. That doesn't make any sense, but hopefully the book will make sense.
No, it sounds like it's awesome. Everyone has probably had a book crush. Which character do you have a crush on before meeting your wife, of course?
A book crush. Okay, I have to think of one that I could feel comfortable talking with you about. Probably Panacea from the Asterix comics. She was this French girl who Obelix had a crush on too, and they had to go become legionnaires to find Panacea's fiancé who'd been kidnapped by the Romans. You ever read that one?
I don't think I have. I might have to check that out.
Panacea is this beautiful blonde French girl who they had to save her fiancé. Yeah.
Do you have a passion or hobby outside of being an author/illustrator?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time for them at the moment because I have a toddler, but I play piano when I can. I do gardening, and I try to take my kayak out and do some paddling, and I try to do some yoga.
Oh.
But mostly I chase after a toddler and a Labrador and try to stop the house from falling apart. Yeah.
I love piano too.
You play piano?
Yeah.
What style of music do you like to play on piano?
Classical, maybe some like, a bit of both.
Yeah. Fantastic. I was into blues and jazz. I like that sort of stuff. And I could play the Simpsons theme tune.
I can play the Harry Potter tune.
Ah, fantastic. Wonderful.
What was your worst subject at school?
My worst subject at school, I was terrible at physics. I just couldn't understand it. Didn't make any sense to me. But I was kind of good at most other things. I could pick other things up. I did music and I did art and I did biology and I did some maths. I also did not understand geometry and trigonometry. It just did not compute. Did not compute. I did a really good impersonation of my teacher though. Yeah. And then I was doing that when he was late to class and then he walked in and I got in trouble.
That's why I'm not going to get in trouble with a teacher.
Yeah. No one told me. I was still doing the impression as he walked in.
Such good classmates. Such a good classmate.
I had my back to the door and then everyone went quiet and I thought, what's going on? I turned around and he was standing there and I thought, oh dear, I better sit down. My face went completely red and I didn't say anything for the rest of the day. It was terrible.
What is something completely frivolous you're going to spend money on when you're like super rich?
I already spend money on frivolous things, even though I'm not rich. I would probably buy a lot of Blu-rays, and I would like to buy some video games and things, but I might not have time to play them until my son is old enough to play them with me, and then it can be like father-son bonding time, and we can play games together. Yeah, I think we could do that. And holidays. Holidays would be great. Yeah. Yes.
Gotta have a holiday.
Definitely. And a bigger house. And a pool.
Oh, pools are amazing.
And so I could keep going on.
Yeah, gotta have pools are amazing.
Maybe I would buy a chair that didn't bounce.
Yeah.
You reckon? Or maybe just replace all the chairs in the house with just bouncing chairs.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cool chair.
It is. Hopefully it's not giving people who are watching this video motion sickness.
Hopefully not.
Everyone's watching it going, oh. Holdings.
Just like casually getting the motion sickness.
Maybe we should bounce more.
Do you have any advice for young writers who imagine a career in the writing industry?
Advice for young writers and illustrators?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Practice is the main thing, and it sounds silly. It sounds like probably not the thing you want to hear, but if you don't practice, you don't get better, and you need to be able to enjoy it. So practice. Gotta practice, and don't be afraid to fail, because you're gonna make lots of mistakes. Mistakes are important; they're part of the process. Just make the mistakes and learn from them, and don't beat yourself up, and keep going and make more mistakes and make more things. And don't be in a hurry to get published. You don't have to get published at the age of 10 or 13 or whatever. Just let that happen when it feels at the right time. When you feel like you're confident enough to do it. Some people are much more confident and accomplished and will do that at whatever age they want. But you don't feel like you have to. Some people don't get their first book published till they're in their 50s, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to become a writer or an illustrator who's published straight away. You don't even have to become published. You can just do it for the fun of it. So make sure you're doing it for the fun of it is probably where it all comes down to.
Amazing advice.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for letting me grill you. This has been incredible.
No worries. Thank you for having me in your bouncy living room. Actually, are the chairs moving, or is it just or in an earthquake?
I don't know.
Maybe we should get under the table and just
Yeah,
get to some cover.
Save the books and then get under the table.
Save the books.